Hey there, welcome back to Wild Bird Farm. I'm Tara. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa, and today we are going to talk about heirloom mums. So a bit of housekeeping before we get going. This is my first year trying heirloom mums, so I am not an expert, but of course I've read up on the subject, and we're going to do some experiments this year together. So first off, I bought these mum cuttings from Porch Farms via Farmer Bailey. Excuse me. I would say I bought them a little bit late in the season. They arrived about 2 weeks ago, so they came towards the end of May. I did this mostly because I know that I am extremely busy in April and May. Now, if I would do it over again, I would get them here earlier and I would make time to take cuttings. Because as I've been thinking about this more, being mid-June, we are at the tail end of where I really want to be cutting these back and also taking cuttings. Heirloom mums are different than our hybrid mums that we plant out in the fall, but they do have some similarities. One of those being they're going to bloom as the daylight hours shorten. So for my garden mums that I overwinter, I do the Chelsea chop, meaning I chop them back. I've already done it twice this year actually already. I saw some buds and I cut them back by a half or a third. And that's just going to delay their blooming. So similarly, you do that with heirloom mums, but for these, I want them really tall enough to sell and use in wrapped and wrap bouquets and arrangements. So being that we are in the middle of June, we're getting towards the end of the time that I'd want to be cutting them back. And as you cut them back, like I said, you're cutting them back to create a bushier plant, to get more blooms from a single plant. And then you can also take cuttings. And that is the biggest thing I'm going to miss out on this year, because I'm getting started so late. I am going to try and take a couple cuttings today, one just to see how they do, if they survive, and then two, I want to put them in the ground and see how tall they get taking them in mid-June. I may have blooms that are only maybe 6 or 9 inches, but that's something that I can take into next year, just sort of notes I can take and knowledge I can gain. Now these came as rooted cuttings. So they came in these little clear bags. There was 3 of them. You buy them in sets of 3 from Porch Farms. They were rooted in kind of what looked like a little bit of netting, or if you know those discs that expand when you put water in them. They look similar to those. They weren't exactly those. So of course I potted them up right away. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm just starting to see roots come out of the bottom of them. Yeah, definitely seeing roots. So I think it's time to get these planted in the ground. But since they were taken from a cutting, they're just a single spindly stem. So I think I do definitely need to cut these back, hoping that they will bush out. But again, this is going to be a little bit of an experiment to see how many blooms I get per plant, because again, I'm starting them pretty late. Heirloom mums get quite tall. Most of the varieties are anywhere from 2 feet to 4 or 5 feet tall. So cutting them back, you also help manage their size a little bit. They definitely need to be staked. Let's see, and I am thinking they might need 2 rows of Hortonova netting. They have very large, a lot of them have very large heads. There are different varieties. So heirloom mums are a little bit like dahlias, where they fall into different groups. So I know there's like ones that are called inverted, there's football mums, there's spider mums. That's one thing I need to dig into more. As I put the names, and I'm going to try and put a picture of the varieties that I have on the screen for you. If I can easily find what type they fall into, I will put that on the screen too. I think there's I don't know. I don't even want to guess. There's a lot of different varieties. So similar to dahlias, if we think of it that way. The other thing is I'm not so worried that I got these in late this year just because I'm going to be able to overwinter them for years to come. Now, being in a cold climate in zone 5, I don't even think they would probably survive in the hoop house. But what you traditionally do is you will dig up one mother plant that you'll put in a pot and protect over the winter, probably indoors, maybe in a garage situation. And then you would take cuttings from that. So I would take all the mother, so if I have 8 varieties here, I'll keep a mother plant of each of those, and then I will take cuttings off of that in the spring and propagate plants that way. That's why I say while this year I'm probably not going to have a huge harvest of mums, this is a trial and a learning year for me, but then it's not a waste. I haven't spent this money to have it all die back in the fall. I'm hoping to keep the mother plants over winter and use those for propagation in the spring. Now, since these heirloom mums have been around for so long, as far as I know, there are not patents on them, so you can freely take cuttings. So that's one of the great things about heirloom mums. One more thing I'll add, these grow in groups. So there's early, mid, and late season. Me being in zone 5, I stuck with the early and mid. I don't think I bought any late. If that information is available as I'm looking up the pictures, I'll add that as well. But I'm planning for blooms inside the hoop house throughout October. I don't think the varieties that I got in our zone will push into November, but again, it's a learning year, so I will know a lot more after this year. As we are getting our bed ready, they do like rich soil. My garden mums also like rich soil. So I have some compost I'm going to work in. We have taken a lot of spring blooms out of this hoop house. I was going to put them in the center here, but since I put my ranunculus down the middle of this hoop house and those go in October, these could still be blooming, or I might not quite be ready to dig the mother plants yet. So we're going to put them in the far bed over here where the dianthus was. So I'm going to work in some compost. That soil over there is also very dry. I had it covered because as I was pulling spent plants, I noticed some cutworms in here. And then we also had possibly a little bit of a soil-borne something or other on the Sweet William. So for those things, I've been trying to sort of solarize the soil behind me a little bit. I'm not too nervous to put these in. I think they'll be okay, but I definitely need to work in some compost. Then I also need to get the soil a little bit damp because it is extremely dry. So I'm going to work on that right now. I'm also going to go get my snips and I'm going to take a few cuttings just to see how they do this season, and then we're going to get these planted. Okay, so as we let that soil set, we are going to talk about the varieties that I bought. All right, so again, they come in packs of 3. I got a couple in 6s. I'm not sure why I did that, but that's what happened. All right, let's see. All right, the first is a group of 6. This one is Fort Vancouver. These are huge cuttings. I will say also, I just found the other night as I was doing some research about how best to propagate them and plant them. 3 Porch Farms has a YouTube channel. I will link it down below. They don't have all of their varieties, but I noticed this was one of them. Some of their more popular varieties, they have pictures of it blooming and they talk a little bit about how tall it gets and things. So that could be a really useful resource for us. But I have 6 cuttings of the Fort Vancouver. I have 3 of Crimson Tide. I have, I'm not going to be able to say this, Coca Hulaku. I'll put these on the screen. And then 3 of River City. That's also a pretty popular one. These were pretty small. These were probably the least developed cuttings that I got. And then the second grouping, I have two groups of 6. One is Nijin Big O. So I have 6 of those. I know this was another one that 3 Porch Farms had some video of if you want to see that one in bloom. And then the last one, I have 6 of Jefferson Park. They might have also had that one. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess I got 6 varieties. And I do have a decent amount of plants of each. So if I can get them to branch, having 3 sets of 6 plants, I would assume I'm going to get a couple dozen blooms off of each. But again, this year is a trial year, so we shall see. All right, I am going to go and do a few more things out in the garden before it gets too hot. I'm going to continue just to sort of let that soil settle, and then I'm going to come back in about an hour and we are going to get these planted. I ended up planting them about a foot apart, so in this 3-foot bed I only put 2 across. Decided to give them a lot of space since I had the room this season. Really well developed roots. I'm pretty impressed with how quickly those roots filled the cells. All right, so I got them in. I didn't end up taking cuttings. I think I'm going to let them settle their roots a bit before I come through and take cuttings off of the taller varieties. Since I did find some cutworms in this bed when I was taking out the spring flowers, I am going to bring down some diatomaceous earth, sprinkle that around here. That is supposed to deter them. I may put some Sluggo down too as just a little bit of an insurance policy. I don't even know if they like mums, but since I've seen some things in these beds this spring, I want to protect them. They're going to get quite a bit of fertilizer throughout the season. Mums like to be fertilized. And then I think I will also bring in some type of mulch, most likely straw, but possibly just some wood chips too, just to help keep some moisture in the ground throughout the summer. I'm planning to keep the shade cloth on this hoop house, but I'm going to see how they grow and maybe read up on that. I'm not sure if they'd prefer to have the shade cloth off. I'm going to go make some tags now so we can kind of keep track of varieties, and I will keep you updated throughout the season on how these do. I hope you're having a great day. I'll see you next time.